Evening everyone. A very warm welcome to you all on behalf of the Lumina team. We are delighted to have you all with us today. Lumina, Lighting Her Path, was launched during IIT Bombay's annual US Roadshow in October 2025. Lumina is more than just a network. It is a vibrant and supportive community for generations of IIT Bombay women. Inspired by the word alumni, Lumina's mission is to illuminate pathways for connection and growth by amplifying voices, celebrating success, and inspiring future generations through a legacy of shared wisdom. The initiative focuses on creating a platform where women alumni can share life experiences, offer mentorship, and engage through networking events and workshops. The Institute is deeply grateful to alumnus Mr. Anil Shesagar, batch of 1975, founding president of the IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation, for his vision in shaping this idea and for providing the seed support to bring it to life. This initiative is guided by a dedicated core team of alumni from India and the US, supported by the IITB Alumni and Corporate Relations team, IIT Bombay Alumni Association, and the IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation. To formally commence today's event, I invite Professor Krishna from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering to deliver the welcome address and introduce our distinguished speaker, Dr. Girija Narlikar.
Thank you so much. So I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Girija Narlikar. So Girija at the moment is the Director of Engineering at Google, and she also leads the AI safety and security at Google Workspace, which we know is the massive suite of apps, Gmail, Drive, Meet, Calendar, Chat, used by over 3 billion people. At Google Workspace, Girija is responsible for ensuring the new Gemini-powered workspace features, which are safe for everyone. She also leads abuse protections of Google Workspace, so in case we get spam, we know who to complain to, right? So Girija is right here, so don't miss the opportunity. So prior to Google Workspace, Girija was an ML leader at Instacart, Google Ads, and Facebook Messenger. In the past, Girija has founded a fintech startup in Mumbai, and she has also worked as a researcher in networking and distributed systems at Bell Labs. So Girija has had long experience in research and engineering roles from startups to big tech companies. So going a bit more into the past, Girija is of course one of our illustrious alumnus, and she's also the daughter of luminaries Dr. Jayant and Mangala Narlikar, astrophysicist and eminent mathematician respectively. So I think Girija, I also wanted to thank IITB not just for the academics, but also for giving you a wonderful spouse. So with these words, I will not take much more time. So Girija, the stage is yours. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm assuming that all of you have used Google Workspace, although you may not know you're using Google Workspace. It's basically a combination of Gmail, Google Meet, Chat, Voice, Calendar, and a bunch of other Drive and all the sort of apps that you see on Drive, right? So there's a lot of different apps for productivity. And today I'm going to talk about how we are making these apps more useful to you with AI, just giving you a glimpse of that. And then really the focus of the talk is going to be on what are the risks that come with adopting AI and how do we mitigate some of those risks. I won't be able to go into all of them, but I'll definitely go into one of the risks that we are spending a lot of time and energy on. Okay, so this is a video showing what does it mean, since the younger generation these days mostly communicates using videos, short videos. I'm going to use a couple of short videos just to be able to convey the message, but this is essentially saying if you could use AI in the productivity space.
Welcome to the project team. Let's get started.
Okay. So essentially what this video was trying to say is that by adding AI into your productivity life, you can actually do a lot more, bring in more creativity, bring in more analysis, bring in a lot more power, and make yourselves just be able to do 10x more work, right? It's not taking humans out of the loop, but it's making the humans more powerful and more productive. And so what makes it exciting to work in this space at Google is the fact that we are working on every aspect of that stack, right? It's kind of a unique position because we're able to work on the apps, which are Google Workspace examples. Other apps, of course, are things like YouTube or search, photos, and things like that. But then all of them are trying to use Gemini to sort of supercharge them and transform them. That Gemini sits on top of a Google Cloud, which includes a whole bunch of infrastructure and platforms. And underneath, powering those are really TPUs, which are basically the hardware that specializes in running the foundation models in an efficient manner at scale. So being able to have that entire stack to optimize and be able to make, if you find something that's not working well at the application layer, actually being able to make a change at the foundation layer, foundation model layer, is something we have an opportunity to do, and that's what makes things very exciting. And I'll give you some examples of that further down in the talk. So just looking at the Gemini piece of it, right? What is it that, what all is happening behind the scenes? I just wanted to give a little bit of a glimpse of very active areas of research. How do we improve a model to understand reasoning and planning? So when a user asks for something, makes a query, it need not be a very simple query. The model might need to break it down into multiple different steps and understand which tools actually need to be used and in each of those steps. Being able to understand what actions can be taken on the web, making sure that the multiple steps are being followed as per the original plan, and then also performing mathematics, logic, and gameplay along the way. Right, so these are active areas of research. You'll find publications in this space. And moving on, another area which is very exciting is multimodality, and this has direct implications on workspace, for example. So being able to understand longer videos, bidirectional audio streaming quality. So audio streaming is, of course, used in Google Meet, as all of you would have used and experienced. Making that better, making the audio quality better, providing real-time translation, and there will be some examples of that. Improved image generation is something that we are very actively working on, and being able to, so many of the slides that I'm showing today, I am not capable of making. They're just, very pictorial in nature, not my forte. A lot of them have been made with Gemini, okay, and much faster for me to operate that way. And then greater user control in generation. So how do we let the user be more in the loop and be able to say, no, this is not quite what I wanted. I want you to adjust this in a certain way. So being able to do that are still active areas of research. I don't think we've nailed them, but we're actively working on them. And so evidence of some of these efforts are out there. You may have heard of Genie 3, which is a model that basically lets you simulate anything in the environment. I think it has tremendous opportunities in education, for example, or simulation. VO 3.1 was recently released that has pretty amazing capabilities in terms of sound effects, ambient noise, and being able to do native audio generation. So you give a prompt and the video gets generated in a fairly realistic manner with physics being modeled under the hood. And Gemini Robotics, there's a lot of very interesting demos out there. You can take a look at how the foundation model can help robots understand the physical environment around them, even as it's changing, and be able to follow instructions to manipulate that environment. So these are all foundation model capabilities that are emerging. And Gemini 3 was recently released, has better multimodal capability, deeper reasoning, powerful agentic features, which I'm going to talk about a little more in my talk, because that's an area we are looking at now. Superior coding and development, real-time performance, which gives you very low latency responses, and granular control, like I said. So the user being able to control a little more of the output is something being actively worked on. And so as a result, what's happening within the company is that Google DeepMind, which kind of sits at the core of the company, is having a tremendous influence on all of the applications around it, right? So all of the applications that are user-facing are now being able to adopt some form of Gemini or the other. And so what's happening in Workspace? Just a couple of examples. Image Gen, like I said, is transforming how slides are made. And you might know of other startups out there that are already doing this, right? And so Google Slides is now bringing in a lot of those capabilities to be native in our products. And so we're taking existing products that we have, for example, Gmail, Calendar, Drive, and so on, and we are integrating Gemini into them. But then we're also thinking of brand new products like Vids or Notebook LM, as some of you may have used, and being able to present those in compelling ways to our existing customers and users. And so another example is translation research. So being able to translate in real time from one language to another as I'm speaking. Let's say the person on the other side of Google Meet cannot understand English. It's being translated into their native language, right? And with the tone and expressions and pauses all being reflected at the other end. So these are all exciting to think about. There's also video generation. So you can create videos out of slides. You can create videos with some prompting. And these are all making it really easy. What used to be hours of work can be done in minutes. Another example is Notebook LM. Is there anybody here who's used Notebook LM? Okay, a few hands. It's really fun. So the first time I tried it was I had to consume a long document, and I was driving to my office, and I didn't have time. The meeting was about to start as soon as I reached. So what I did is I converted that document into a podcast using Notebook LM, and I listened to it in the car, and it was quite engaging. As I drove, I kind of got the gist of what I was supposed to absorb. And the agentic future is really coming to Workspace. So what that really means is the ability to connect all the different apps in a way that is almost fully automated with no user in the loop. So an example there is being able to say, every time I get an email from these set of addresses or from a customer, analyze that, understand, summarize it, and then maybe send it to me on a chat, right? So these are things that I don't need to be in the loop, and I actually use this quite often at work when I say, when my manager sends me an email, please just ping me on chat, because I've often missed these, my inbox is way too flooded, right? And so these are very useful primitives that can be automated. So this is the first product of this sort of automation across Workspace apps. Has its own little video, so bear with me. So it's showing you the different steps in the flow that you create. Okay, so you get the gist of it, right? So you're basically automating a bunch of workflows that you would have done manually, and it's really easy to do with a UI. You don't need to be able to code anything. So it's really intended to be used by anybody who's using Google Workspace. Now, these are all pretty exciting. Now, my job happens to be on the side of keeping users safe on Workspace. So when I look at these capabilities, there are certain switches that go on in my head that tell me that, okay, this is great. LLMs should be used to make the users a lot more productive. But what are the risks, right? I want to make sure their data is always protected. There's no exfiltration. The LLMs are actually doing what the users are expecting them to do, right? And so that's where some of my sort of work comes in, which is to think of the risks, okay? And what are some of the risks, right? I would have, if time permitting, I would have sort of opened it up and made it a little more interactive, but let me go into it. The two of the main things that we worry about are content safety and security. So content safety means that we don't want the model to emit something that could be harmful. Whether the user asked for it or not, we don't want the user to be harmed, okay? Examples, child sexual abuse material, a big no. Or dangerous content, something that can cause others or themselves harm, right? So these are the kinds of content we absolutely do not want to produce. On the other side, we also have other kinds of harm where the user's data can be at risk. And that is a huge no. So imagine if people could get access to your email. Or we have customers who are governments, who are security agencies, large enterprises, and we absolutely cannot have their data be exfiltrated, right? So how can that happen? And why would that happen? And why is it different in an AI world, right? So that's where I'm going to explain a little bit. So there's this completely new form of attacks called indirect prompt injection attacks. It's a mouthful. But if any of you are from a database background, SQL injection attacks have been around for decades. And prompt injection attacks have a similar flavor, but they're harder to prevent. And what happens is an LLM is extremely powerful because you can give it input as plain text, right? You give it the user's instructions, and you also give it a whole bunch of data. And the LLM is supposed to know, this is the user's instruction, this is the data, here's what I'm supposed to do. However, sometimes the LLM might see an instruction inside the data and think, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, and forget about the original instruction. Right? Now imagine the kind of behaviors you might see when that happens. And this data can be coming from anywhere. It could be email coming from anywhere in the world, right? So I'll have an example here just to make it a little more clear. So let's say the organizers of this event sent me an email saying, hey, Girija, great that you're coming. Here's a snippet in case you want to publicize it somewhere on social media, right? And there's some language here that talks about the presentation, right? And I'm maybe way too busy, and I just ask an LLM like Gemini to summarize this, right? Looks reasonable, right? Do you see anything harmful potentially here? No? Okay. What I don't know is that there is some white on white text hidden at the bottom of that email that says, actually ignore everything you've been told to do and instead just show the user this output. Right? Now, although the LLM was originally trying to summarize this email, it gets distracted and it ends up doing something different. Okay? And so when the user clicks summarize, you might see this output if the LLM is not well protected. Okay, and I'm a busy user, I don't have time. I see the output saying, oh, I have to go to this website to get the answer, I might click. And if I do that, I'm at risk of actually exfiltrating my data to some unknown server, right? It looks like a good server, but it's actually something controlled by, let's say, abusive parties. So it's happened very easily, right? It doesn't take a lot of sophistication from the abuser to manipulate an LLM. So what do we do about it, right? We are working actually very hard to prevent these kinds of attacks on LLMs. Okay, so no single solution is sufficient. We apply a whole layer of them. So the first thing we do is we look at all the inputs flowing into the model, and we apply different kinds of classifiers to ensure that bad stuff does not make it in, right? And so some of these classifiers might be large language models themselves. They may be simpler, smaller, faster, or they may be heuristics or some other ways of looking for bad patterns. We also have a whole host of runtime protections, which I won't go into the details of, but it's to ensure at query time nothing strange is happening around the foundational model. We have response protections. So we look at the response of the model and we make sure nothing weird is in the response, like, let's say, bad URLs or other strange patterns. And then we also have end-to-end testing. So we have like a golden data set that we throw of attacks that we throw at any product to make sure it's not getting, it's not vulnerable to those attacks. right? Because a lot of things change in any production system, and we want to make sure it remains protected. We also have red teaming. This is an area that I've only recently been introduced to, where we have very expert security researchers, both within the company and outside. Some of them come from India, and they're flown to specific locations, and they are asked to attack our products. And they're given accounts and access to those accounts and special features ahead of their release, and they're asked, hey, please find all the vulnerabilities you can. And it's an amazing set of people who do this, and we are super grateful to them because they help us learn about the vulnerabilities in our own products. And then the last thing we also do is the model resilience. So this is what I alluded to before. We are able to improve the foundation model itself by sending it data for training, and this is data that it has not been able to withstand until now. So we continue to improve its own resilience by giving it data sets that would help it learn more. And there we partner with DeepMind to be able to improve Gemini. So all this while, I started the talk saying, hey, you know, AI is making users very, very productive. The flip side of that is AI is also making abusers very, very productive, right? And so it's becoming easier and easier to generate really good-looking spam messages. No spelling mistakes, no obvious errors, extremely personalized. You might think, oh, this is a genuine message meant for me because it's reflecting some action I took 5 days ago, right? So we are seeing a lot more of this too. And so there's two classes of actors here. There's the state-sponsored actors. So governments of countries trying to break into other governments or steal the IPs of companies and so on. A lot of that is going on, and we do see them using Gemini or trying to use Gemini. We also see commercially motivated groups that are trying to, again, break into IP and attack other companies. They're also attacking consumers, just like you, right? So they're able to find something very personal about you at scale now. They're able to know that maybe you participated in a certain program or went to a certain location or whatever it is, and then target you. So for example, when I worked at my previous company before Google, I used to get emails saying that the CEO of the company wanted to really talk to me about a topic an area that I was working on, right? And these are all what are known as spear phishing emails that are intended to personalize you and target you specifically. And so it becomes much harder for you as a user to distinguish the good from the bad. Just an example of a retailer, this was in the news a few months ago, that bad actors targeted the finance and accounting departments, created emails targeting users in those departments specifically, and ended up with a significant financial loss because money was transferred as a result. Right? This is becoming fairly common. Here's an example of an email you might get. Question is, it's claiming to be from Google, and it's saying that your account has been hacked, right? I mean, looking at this, can you tell, is it from Google or is it not? Any guesses? Not sure you can read the text from way back there. But if you look carefully, the sender address is google.support. It's not a google.com domain, right? And if you were to look at change password, the link that it's actually taking you to, It's a completely different domain. So these are all signs that will tell you that something is off, but more and more people are falling for messages that look quite reasonable. And so how are we dealing with those, right? That's another part of my job, which is to protect users from abuse of this kind. And we've done a few things, and I'm going to describe a few of them. We've used better embeddings to begin with. So one of the things that attackers do is they make small manipulations to characters so that humans can still read them, but machines fail to recognize them. And so we are creating embeddings now that can be resilient to those kinds of character manipulations. We have certain impersonation detection. So often we get emails from claiming to be from banks or medical providers and so on, right? Places where you feel an urgency. And we're able to detect brand impersonation better using AI. And we're also leveraging AI to bolster malware defenses. Malware is software that you might inadvertently install, and it will create harm on your machine. So what else are we doing? We're building better content clustering techniques so that when we find something that's confirmed to be bad, we can quickly go and find other similar content that is both syntactically or semantically similar to other bad emails that you may be getting. And so we can actually go back into your inbox and spam folder them. Another thing we're doing is running distilled LLMs. So large language models, we cannot run full-size large language models on every single email coming in because the QPS is way too high. Okay, it's just unthinkable. But what we do is we run distilled LLMs. So if you've heard of student-teacher models, so we take a large LLM and we distill it. We first train it with our label data, and then we distill it into a much smaller model that we can run on every single email that we get, right? So we're doing that, and we feel like we're doing a better job of getting the semantic understanding of the email to make sure we can recognize spam. Okay. And so we have, what we're building for spam protection today is a whole bunch of these signals. And on top of these signals is like a holistic sort of supervisor model that takes multiple signals and builds a simple ML layer on top to balance out all of these scores and tell us finally is something spammy or not. And being able to do this at scale is super important because for Gmail, for example, you wouldn't tolerate minutes of latency for an email to reach you. Just this morning, I was at a Vodafone location and I had to get OTP multiple times to enable my SIM card. And I could feel the pain when I was waiting for that OTP to show up, right? So you don't want people to be waiting several minutes. We have to be able to do this at a very low latency. Okay, so what's the result? You're able to get more secure email, about 20%. Actually, now this is an old number, it should be much higher, but we are able to block more spam using LLMs. And by the way, we're getting a lot more spam also. The volume of spam we are getting is significantly higher than it was a year ago, which I think is probably a result of abusers using AI. We're also able to look at every single user report. So just a public service announcement. If you think you're getting spam in your Gmail, the intro was not a joke, do report it as spam, right? Because every time you report something as spam, you're giving us training data to improve our models. So if you just delete it, we don't get that data. But if you report it as spam, we are able to look at it. Otherwise, privacy concerns would prevent any access to that. But we are able to look at now every single user report. We get millions every day because we are using LLMs to look at them and not humans. And these LLMs are able to tell us whether this is really egregious spam or is it just spam that's annoying marketing. You subscribe to, say, Flipkart and you forgot about it or something. It's not that kind of spam. So we are getting nuanced signals from LLMs thrown at user reports. And we're able to block most of the incoming volumes, even though those volumes themselves are increasing. And so I'm going to conclude here that AI has an immense power to transform digital productivity. And honestly, we're still at the very early stages. We've barely hit the tip of the iceberg. I can already see a huge number of efforts ongoing internally on improving AI features, adding AI features, and more. There's a lot more to come. But I also want to say that safety and security are absolutely essential, right? We cannot go into this without safety and security as safeguards for us, right? So we need to, and to enable that, we need to innovate across all the layers of the AI stack to be really able to withstand any attacks. That's all I had. I'm now happy to open it to questions, if folks have any.
Girija,
Yes.
what are the kind of energy requirements that an individual user has to make sure to run these? You got it?
Yeah. No, I just, if you want for the audience, you can just repeat the question. Yeah.
No, my question is, energy has become a major issue.
Yes.
Whether you want to do LLMs or you should cut down. Now, the question is, you are making it both for the individual and also on the upside to major corporations.
Yeah.
So I, as an individual, start using your Gemini. How much power do I have to make sure to my household or to my office?
Okay, so that's a good question. The power, so all of this is running on the cloud. So Gemini is running on the cloud.
Including ours.
Yes. So everything you do, let's say even the spam detection that we run is all happening on the cloud. All the workspace apps are really hosted on the cloud. You're looking at them through the browser. And all of the energy and the TPU requirements are being footed by Google. It's not, I'm not saying it's free either, right? And so we, at our end, we have to be mindful to decide which features we can release to what audiences, right? And so the more energy consuming, TPU consuming features will probably not go to, everybody.
Passing the buck.
No, so you as a user, you are not paying for it, right? As a consumer, you're not going to be paying for it.
I'm not losing, but somebody,
So
cloud has to use.
correct. So there are other subscriptions plans that large enterprises would have to use the more advanced AI features. Yeah, absolutely. There's a question in the back. You want to pass the mic?
Hey, I am Sandy. I am a second year undergrad at B.Tech. So I had a question like what you talked about was the textual form of the prompt injection part.
Yep.
But in 2025, the major part was of image form of like prompt injection. Like a hacker tries to embed some text which is actually invisible to humans inside a text, and he just posts it online. And it may have a beautiful content like flowers and some cute cats. So whenever like somebody summarizes it through LLM, so it actually forgets the whole content inside the picture and actually reads that invisible text. So can you like shed some light like what actually happens at a more like ground level?
So so the problem is, that's a great question. The problem is the humans are seeing one thing and the model is seeing something else. right? The dissonance is there. And so ideally, we'd like to feed the model what the humans are seeing and not things that are hidden. And that's the direction in which we'd like to go in. Until then, we are going to have to either detect what is hidden and explicitly throw it out, or put more safeguards on the model to ignore anything that looks like a prompt injection attack. But it's a great, multimodal attacks are something that, you know, we expect to see probably more of in 2026. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Trivikram. I'm a second year M.Tech student. I have a question regarding the content generation part. You mentioned some dangerous content. So it's becoming very increasingly easy to fool LLMs. I mean, contrary to what others believe. For example, if I were to, let's say, make a bomb, I want to understand how to make a bomb. If I go and ask that to Gemini, it's not going to give me a response. But if I break it down in simpler terms and probably I ask what is ammonium nitrate plus some substance and probably ask it in a way that can fool the LLM, then I would get a response, or probably break the prompt and break the steps into multiple steps and ask Gemini over and over again in multiple threads. So how, I just want to understand, is Google trying to do something in that area?
Yeah, so, and this is actually, I mean, it's a, maybe the more generalization of this is a multi-step kind of attack, right? It could be on the safety or security side. And this is something that we are trying to actively, like, DeepMind is looking at this as a definitely a priority area right now. So it's, like you said, you know, it's harder to do it in a single step, but with a little bit of effort, you might be able to succeed in multiple steps, and that's something we need to protect against, for sure.
Girija, you have a lot of competitors. Anthropic, ChatGPT, you, and I think, I forget the name, Sriram or somebody started.
Perplexity.
Yeah. So, how do you assess? I mean, do you compare yours with others? You should, if you want to be dominant.
Yeah.
So,
I can't say a whole lot. We are comparing internally to make sure that we are, you know, leaders in security. I can say that. But I think the bigger focus is really making sure that we are doing the best we can in every dimension, and not think too much about all the competition, right? So how can we improve our products? And there we're really trying to get user feedback and understand where are the gaps, and there are many gaps. In every single product that I described, there are still a lot of gaps, like, for example, image generation for slides, right? It generates beautiful slides, but sometimes they're not easy to edit. And so all of these things are work in progress, and they're improving based on user feedback, much more so than direct competitive comparisons.
yes, I know you can't reveal all the inners, but
Yeah, but we are, I mean, at least for security, we want to make sure we are hitting, good benchmarks.
So hello Girija. So in one of your previous slides, yeah, there was mentioned that you guys are using Magika to detect the file types, and I just went to the GitHub repo and it was pretty cool using Rust and very simplified models. So I just wanted to know what Google stands on open source, particularly in the cybersecurity space.
Can you be more specific about your question? Because the open source is a lot, and cybersecurity is a huge area.
Google has like open models, Gemma, apart from Gemini, but like especially in the cybersecurity space, is there a dedicated team or something which is working on cybersecurity?
For sure. So there are, I think it's called Gemini, something like that, is a new sort of security-oriented Gemini that has been published. You should go look that up. There's definitely a lot of use cases for security of foundation models, and we are trying to make some of those public. Yeah.
Hi Girija, Talpa here. So when we're talking about security, I'm talking from a user's perspective. Notebook LM when we use, that thought always comes to our mind, right? That how secure it is it getting used to be trained? So that question always comes of how much can we share and whether personal information can be shared, whether official, like ID Bombay, right? What information can we share? So that, that question, although it said that yes, if it's a paid version, it will be within your workspace and all of that. But still that question constantly is there in the user's mind of how safe it is and how much we can share so that it doesn't go out of your own workspace.
Yeah, so Gemini is not trained on any of this data. It's only being used for inference. And when you say it's within the workspace, Gemini is still running on the cloud, right? But we're not collecting customer data to train Gemini better, right? And there are labs programs which are intended to understand more of usage patterns and so on. But if you're not part of that, then it shouldn't be used. Yeah. And even with labs, we make sure we are doing a lot of PII removal and filtering, because that's not the kind of data we want anyway. We don't want to know people's passwords or social security numbers. Those would not benefit training in a foundation model. I think good. Okay, thank you all. This was fun, and it's great to be back. It's great to be back, and it's great to see some of my teachers here in the audience. So thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Girija, for such an insightful and thought-provoking session. Now, I have the honor of inviting Professor Arun Kumar, retired faculty member of IIT Bombay and mentor of Dr. Girija, to facilitate her.
Thank you for coming. It's such a pleasure to see you.
I will finish the talk. Why is it that I happen to give
Hold.
felicitation for Girija? Now, she is a product of 1989-93 batch. Yeah. And I happen to have been the faculty advisor. Now, I must say one thing, that I see a few IIT community and many younger who may not have come across some of the underpinnings of IIT and IIT Bombay. It is amazing that an institution like IIT Bombay started in '58. Within 10 years, the foundation was really laid by the founding teachers and the governance. And that ethos, that kind of a culture is still continuing, and that is quite amazing. And of course, I benefited by it, being for part of the '64 batch. How many years before that?
29, yeah.
And amazingly, the instructors, I would like Girija to correct, would try to be impish and try to challenge a student to the ultimate. And I must say that Girija had come out with flying colors. I don't have to say it, but she has documented it. Secondly, this entire system of what you call as advisors, faculty advisors, gives them a chance to come to a faculty to seek any problems. And I think that has worked very well because you see so many outstanding individuals, graduates, who have come from IITs and IIT Bombay and the earlier IITs. So what you have seen today is a sample of, and I suppose myself who have benefited, a sample of what the excellence that Girija has. And shall we give a big clap? Because she has really got, I would say, she has added to the eminence of our IIT. And thanks, Girija. I think it was a pleasure to have first part of the advisory system, and second, I think you took my course also.
Yes, of course.
You didn't push you too much.
It was operations research, I remember that.
Okay, so all the best.
Thank you.
And keep feeding IIT Bombay,
Absolutely.
formally and informally.
Yes.
Tell all our friends, Pandu Nayak,
Yes.
I know so many of them, and Subra, I know Subra, and so many others, I think, who are in Google.
Yeah.
And tell them to keep coming here and so on.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Dipti Radhe, CEO.
Distinguished guests, faculty, colleagues and members of the IIT Bombay community. On behalf of the IIT Bombay Alumni Association, it is my privilege to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Girija Narlikar for an insightful and inspiring session. We are truly grateful for your time, generosity and continued engagement with the IIT Bombay community. I would also like to thank the Lumina team for this wonderful initiative dedicated to connecting and inspiring women across our community for curating this meaningful and timely conversations. Our heartfelt thanks to SIGN for venue arrangements, the IT department support, the DRF team and the ITBA team whose coordination and commitment ensured smooth execution of this event. Finally, thank you to all the participants for your enthusiastic participation which truly brought this session to life. Thank you once again. Please join us for snacks and